We'll get started here in just a second. I'm waiting for YouTube to begin. Once YouTube starts, then we'll try to go live. I'm not gonna take a lot of time. Everything that I was thinking about how to get this day to go has not gone as planned, but that's okay. And yeah, I'm gonna go over to YouTube really quick. All right, got a number of notifications, but nothing for us. All right, here we go. Test 1, 2, 3. All right, got. Close that. And go over here to sermon audio. There's a lot of broadcasts currently underway. I did not realize that there are over 100 right now. I don't know why I wasn't even thinking it's Wednesday night, right? So there's a lot of churches that will have a New Year's Eve service because it's like, close out the year. I remember back when I was Independent Fundamental Baptist, tonight would have been, start services around 7 and the service would have gone all the way till midnight, would have taken breaks. Like 7 to 8, take a break, then a little after 9 to 10, take a break, then 11, and then close it out, and then say Happy New Year's in church. So, but for some reason it didn't register to me that it's Wednesday. So breaks. So that kind of changed my whole dynamic on what I was hoping to do here. So we will see what we can get accomplished tonight. Yeah, I don't know. I changed everything I was going to do, so we'll see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm just going to do this. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, December the 31st, 2025. It is currently 6:11 p.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. A little after 6 p.m. on December the 31st. And I'm sitting here and I'm a little conflicted, right? I mean, it's a little after 6 p.m., so, no countdowns has started yet, right? Some of the countdown shows will begin, probably in the next hour or so. Maybe in some areas there's some countdown shows. Maybe there's some platforms where there's some countdown shows going on. But just a little before many of the countdowns will start. No fireworks around me, at least nowhere outside. I don't hear anything yet. Obviously, I'm not going to play any dramatic music swelling in the background. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, it's almost over, right? No, not that. If you think about it, it's just another Wednesday evening that just happens to sit on the edge of a calendar. And before this year ends, before the clock, yeah, I can't even speak correctly, before the clock strikes midnight, before the noise starts, before everything is supposed to feel hopeful and new, I guess I just want to stop and say some few last words for 2025. I'm not going to give you any predictions. I'm not going to give you any resolutions. I'm not going to give you any highlight reel. I'm not going to give you any countdown. I'm just going to turn on the microphone and just kind of speak honestly to you and just be honest and just kind of share some things. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of my final words of 2025, and then I'll end it with God's word. God's words for the end of 2025. All right? I don't have this well scripted out. I took some loose notes. I have some loose notes. I didn't even do the introduction the way that I originally planned. I was conflicted, all right? I was conflicted, all right? And so we'll talk about some of these thoughts. I think what I should do is just kind of start in a very, just some thoughts about 2025, where I am. I'm sitting here right now a little bit conflicted because, as many of you know, I came up with this great idea, right? We're going to end 2025 by looking back at the biggest album of 2025, The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift, and I was going to go song by song and finish it before the clock strikes midnight. That was the plan. Well, obviously, once I woke up today, I realized I don't think I'm going to be able to pull this off. I just don't think I'm going to be able to get there. There's just no way. I would have to be broadcasting hour after hour after hour after hour. Maybe I should have just dedicated the time to do that. Then I started thinking, who's even going to be listening? And then when I realized, I didn't even realize it was Wednesday night, right? Once I realized it's Wednesday night, then I started thinking, well, you know, if you look like on the Sermon Audio app or the sermonaudio.com, you know, you got hundreds and hundreds of churches doing, well, their Wednesday evening church service. So do I jump in the middle of that and try to talk about the next song on the Taylor Swift album? It just didn't feel like the right time once it got later. Maybe if I'd have done it earlier in the afternoon, which I probably should have, but the day just kind of slipped away. Next thing you know, the day is just gone, right? So I'm like, well, that's kind of frustrating. I need to finish that. But then, according to what, right? I mean, I had a nice little plan. It was a fun idea. I mean, we covered 3 songs. I'm still going to cover some of the songs on the album because I'm having fun trying to interpret the lyrics. I did spend a good portion of the day trying to interpret the next song, and I was going back and forth, trying to figure it out. I think I worked out an accurate interpretation. So, and that, of course, took a lot of time. Next thing you know, 1 hour turns into 2 hours. You understand how it works. So, but there's nothing stopping me from doing that tomorrow or the next day because we just kind of make this, well, the calendar says it goes from December the 31st to January the 1st. It's the new year. And we give that a lot of significance. Sometimes I think we give that more significance than it really should. And for some people, maybe it's important that there is that clear line in the sand. It was this year, now it's this year. And it may impact them a lot. I think for other people, it can be a negative thing. But as I sit here on the edge of 2025, looking over and seeing 2026 right there, it'll be here before I know it. It's been kind of an interesting year. I can say right here, all right, it's Wednesday, December the 31st. It's a little after the clock says, not the clock says 6:16 p.m. Central Time. This is crazy, but you know what I can say right now? I'm no longer a pastor. 2025 marks the end of me being a pastor. After 25 years? I'm no longer a pastor. That's kind of odd to say. The church that I was a pastor of for right at 25 years no longer exists. It's over. It's done. The building is sold. We don't even own the building anymore. It's gone. That's crazy. Like, I haven't given it much thought, but when I started thinking about what do I say for my last words of 2025, I have to say goodbye to, I mean, that's like my identity, my career, my life, what I thought, dreamed of, I was going to be a pastor one day, not very long after becoming a Christian as a teenager. I was like, I can do that. I spent my entire adult life going to this school and this school and getting a degree in biblical studies, getting a degree in theology, working on a degree in religious education, even going to a Catholic school to work on a degree in Catholic theology so that I could be better informed. I could be more theologically grounded. I could speak and challenge people. And all that I did, I mean, that was my life. I sacrificed trying to do more in the military. I could have gained more rank, so I would have made more money when I retired, so that I could dedicate to theological education in the church. I did not pursue things there. I sacrificed that for the church, but the church is gone. All of that sacrifice, it's gone. Church doesn't even exist anymore. I'm no longer even a pastor. that's kind of it's a heavy thing to like process, right? I mean, in some ways, in other ways, I don't know how to feel about it, but it like, that was who I was. That's what I did. That's what I pursued. I wanted to do it in a unique way, a different way. I wanted to challenge the status quo. I did a lot of that, but in the end, I mean, there's no way to get around it. You know, I mean, look, I can try to romanticize it. I can try to repackage it. Like, you know, I did it my way. But the end, I was a failure. There's no way to get around it. I failed. And by any measurable standard, I was a failure. And failure has consequences. And that means the end of a church because I failed. I didn't, you know, if I would have done this or maybe not done that, maybe decide not to do things in such a radically different way. I failed. There's no way to get around it. From every human measurement, I failed. The church ended. It failed. I failed. Now, we had some times of great success, and even though I'm admitting my failure because there's no way to get around it, I did do things in a different way. And I am grateful that the church allowed me to be me. Now only the people left, all the people who left before that did not really want me to be me. They wanted me to do things in a different way. But I am grateful that those people stayed with me and let me do that. But it's over. So I'm sitting here, fast approaching midnight. Now, it doesn't really matter, right? Midnight just is the time on the clock, and January 1st is just a day on a calendar. But you do feel the weight of it more on the end of the year. But it's done. It's just over. So I think 2025 is a year of I feel like a lot of things just ended. A lot of things came to an end. And I think there's just no way to get around it. Like, I think 2025 will feel like the year. And yeah, and I'm summarizing. I may be oversimplifying because I'm not going to sit here and spend the entire time talking about every aspect of the year, obviously. But in many ways, 2025 is you failed, and this is where you are. You failed, and this is where you are. Now, I used to write down in my journals from a theological perspective, just writing down different things, that I would write down something, and I think I had different variations. With God, failure is not forever. Failure is not fatal. Failure is responded to by God with redemption, with salvation, with reconciliation, with forgiveness. But in life, not so much. It ends with, there was a group of us standing in a kind of a semicircle, standing in a circle, all just kind of talking about our memories of the church. We all say our goodbye. We walk out, the sanctuary is now empty. And then the building is sold, and today we no longer, the sign is gone. It's just over. If you drive by, my daughter came by. She wanted to go look at the building one last time, and she's like, "Do you still have a key?" And I'm like, "We no longer own the building anymore." And it kind of hit her like, "Oh, that's over. It's gone. It's done." Now she gave me this framed, beautiful looking picture, kind of like looks like it was sketched of the church. So she did give me that, which was great and very nice of her to do so. But I don't know, when I look at the picture, I think I look at it as I failed. But here's the bottom line. It's Wednesday, December 31st, and I'm no longer a pastor. And the church no longer exists. But what do you do in the face of failure? And in some ways, though, it just tells me perfection perfection is the only way to success, right? Because if you fail, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. So that's just kind of and again, I know I'm stumbling through everything, and I know, but this is not supposed to be all well scripted and mapped out. I do have some things here on paper, but yeah, it just kind of hit me that, yeah. Now from a public perspective, just make sure we make this very clear, because I don't want people to misunderstand. I never made it a thing in a sense publicly that I was a pastor, right? I never signed my emails, Pastor so-and-so. I never did that. I didn't even have my name on the church sign. I never did that. I never did anything like that from an external standpoint, because to me, that misses the whole point. The church was never supposed to be my name on it. It was supposed to be about the cross and Jesus Christ, not about me. Even on this podcast, I don't make it about me. It's supposed to be, well, we make Theology Central. If it's Theology Central hosted by me, I'm making myself central. It's not about a personality. It's another reason I don't do video, because then that face becomes the brand. This is never supposed to be about me. The church was never supposed to be about me. Christianity is not supposed to be about me. It's supposed to be about Christ. It's supposed to be about doctrine, theology, church history. It's not supposed to be about an individual. I've always stood against that from the very beginning when they got ready to make the very first church sign. So, do you want us to put your degrees behind your name? I'm like, I don't even want my name on the sign. What are you talking about? No. My name does not go there. Never. We will never, ever, ever, ever advertise this church with my name on anything. If we put a newspaper ad, my name will not be on anything. Never, ever. Because that makes it about me. So on one hand, it wasn't about me, but at the other hand, from like a more private perspective, I mean, that was my life, right? I went to school. I did all of that education to be able to pastor, right? To preach, to teach. I mean, where would I be on a Wednesday night? Well, I would be standing behind a pulpit preaching. That's I'm not going to ever stand behind another pulpit again. That part of my life is done. It's finished. Now, I will sit in front of this microphone, hopefully, for some time to come. If I can keep, people... The danger now, I probably will, as fast as I got kicked off Christian radio, so that didn't last very long. I guess it took 25 years to destroy a church, but as fast as I run people off, we'll see if I make it through 2026 and the podcast still exists. I have great questions. I have great doubts that it will, but it may work out that I have the money that it won't matter if anybody is listening again. I can just pay the money to speak to no one. All right. But that's okay. Me, myself, and I will benefit from this exercise of talking into a microphone. But yeah, 2025 is a year of failure. Maybe theologically failure is not forever. Maybe theologically failure is not fatal. But in everyday practical life, failure is absolutely devastating. You have to be perfect. You have to be perfect. I do believe that that's more true than we ever want to pretend that it is. I think it is. And when you mess up, you get thrown to the trash heap. Now, that's not making an excuse, right? Because you failed. If you fail, you fail. So, but we romanticize somehow that it doesn't, but it leads to that. But from a theological standpoint, thank goodness God doesn't do that. So that's kind of where I am. There's probably a lot of other thoughts. There's a lot of positive things about 2025, right? The one positive thing is the church. You talk about grace, you talk about mercy. They did not hold now this is where, I guess this is the counter, the kind of duplicity in it. Because on one hand, the church failed, or the church closed, the church fell apart. Fell apart just because people left, and you don't have enough people to keep the church, sustain the church. That's my failure. But on the other hand, The people who stuck around were unified, stuck together. There was no fight. There was no anything like that. And they decided to talk about, now this shows grace and mercy. In spite of the fact that I failed and the church closed, the people remaining, they took the money of the sale of the church and they paid off my mortgage. And I got notification, I think it was this morning, that we no longer owe anymore for the house. The house is paid for. So failure isn't forever, or is failure? I don't know. It is, but it isn't, I guess, in some cases. Some cases there is grace and there is mercy. I don't think that that's the norm, but at least in that case there is, right? So there's a little bit of, on one hand, that feels like success. Whew, 25 years, I got my house paid off. That's success. That's not failure, right? But the church is gone. Well, that's failure. So my failure was fatal, but in other ways, it's not. I think we can say this. Failure is fatal when there is no grace or mercy present. When people show you grace and mercy, then even if you fail and the church closes and it's no more and you're no longer a pastor, where grace and mercy is, they pay off your house. So maybe wherever there's truly grace and mercy, then failure is not fatal. But the minute grace and mercy is removed, you will get thrown in the trash. Maybe, I don't know. What do I take from that? I don't know. But those are just some of the conflicting thoughts I have. But hey, it's now 6:30 p.m. We're moving faster and faster to the end of the year. I was supposed to be, doing other things, but let's just stop. And I guess a question, what is the end of a year supposed to feel like, right? Doesn't the end of a year come with some kind of expectations? I mean, I always struggle with, what am I supposed to feel at the end of a year? Is it supposed to feel like closure? Well, in some ways, this year does feel like closure to me. It's the end of an entire journey, my entire life. It's over. It's done. There is closure. Sometimes that closure can feel good. Sometimes that closure can make you feel conflicted. Sometimes that closure can be emotionally destructive and damaging, right? Is it supposed to feel like relief? There is a little bit of relief, right? We had to get that building sold, or I don't know what we would be doing. That building, see, there was a part of me that all I wanted to do is, we got to get the building sold. We got to bring this to an end, because what do we do with this building? Who's going to be responsible? How long? So that's over. So it's relief. But now once the relief is gone, now it's kind of like, but wait, all of that is over, right? So it's relief. I guess there's a little bit of I don't know what to feel. Is it supposed to feel like a fresh start? It's a fresh start. In some ways, it is a fresh start. When I wake up tomorrow, 2026 will be the first year in my life that I have not been a pastor for 25 years. Or around that time. I'm kind of rounding up a little bit there, but 25 years. That's hard to believe. I may not be rounding up. I'd have to figure it out. It's numbers. I'll get them wrong. So just don't quote me. But when I wake up tomorrow morning, January the 1st, 2026, I will enter the first year that I have not been a pastor for 25 years. That is going to be like a brand new year. So it is a fresh start. It is a fresh start. Are we, I don't know, are we told, do we kind of feel that maybe that, hey, by the end of a year, this is the time everything is supposed to make sense? See, it's the end of a year. It's the end of 2025. This is when we tie a bow around the year and we step forward with clarity and motivation, right? We put a bow on the year and it all makes sense now. We've got our answers. We've solved all the mysteries. Everything is fixed. And now we just move into a new year. I think sometimes we're made to feel that way. But I think here's the deal. For a lot of people, for a lot of us, we end the year and we don't feel any of those things. In fact, I don't know what we feel. I think we feel a little bit of the confusion and a little bit of not even really knowing how to feel. Just like I stumbled through the introduction, maybe that's a good symbol of just stumbling. You get to the end of the year, I think you just kind of stumble out of 2020, one year into a next. I don't think it's always simple and easy and packaged perfectly. I think for some people, it feels quiet, maybe in a way that's uncomfortable. The year just ends and it's kind of quiet and it's kind of uncomfortable. Maybe for others, it feels very, very heavy. Like, whoa, this has been a hard year. This has been difficult. This has been painful, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. And maybe for others, you get to the end of the year and you kind of look around, feels absolutely empty, lonely, sad, depressed, despondent, discouraged, defeated. And I would like to say, if you have some of the, if you're tonight, I don't know where you are, what you're doing, and I don't even know when you will hear this. Maybe you'll hear it right before midnight, wherever you are. If you're feeling any of those negative things, I want to say there's nothing wrong with you at all. There's nothing wrong with you. Because we're humans. And the end of a year impacts everyone differently. Everyone feels something differently. And there's nothing wrong for us to feel something, because that's just the way it works. I think some years can end cleanly for some people. If your year is ending cleanly, well, congratulations. But for some, the end of 2025 did not end cleanly. It ended messy, broken, conflicted, confused, bothered, upset, all of those negative things. For many of us, maybe there's questions from 2025 that never got answered, never will get answered. You're just kind of left going, what happened? I don't even know. I don't even know if I understand it. I don't know. It was this, and then now it's this, and I don't know. A lot of times, especially if you're someone who makes a prayer list and checks it twice, well, there was probably a lot of unanswered prayers or prayer. I know we say there's no unanswered prayer. It's either yes, no, or maybe. But the point is, you can't write down an answer in your prayer journal. Things did not get resolved, no matter how much you begged and pleaded God. There's some situations that didn't improve. You thought by the end of 2025, this situation is going to improve. You're going to wake up one day and the situation's going to be better. It's going to be fixed. Nope. You're fast approaching midnight and it's still not resolved and you don't know, and it did not improve. Maybe you thought certain patterns, certain things was going to change, and it did not change. In fact, in a lot of ways, you know what happens at the end of the year? You realize that nothing really changed, okay? And now when you wake up tomorrow, nothing really changed. I think a lot of times we just realize things just continue on without much change. Other than change we try to assign to it, or we try to pretend that happens. But I think sometimes we just realize everything always kind of feels the same. Even though you may change a certain thing, there is kind of a sameness to things. And I think sometimes Christianity struggles with this. Christianity wants to try to always explain everything. We want to spiritualize everything. We rush to frame it in some kind of sanctified language and spiritual language. But I like honesty better than spiritual posing. I don't like posing spiritually, trying to make things, it's the end of the year and we've seen God and all that church talk. It just, at some point, it's just like, it's such a performance. It sounds like, hey, guys, go time out. High school drama team, it's just stop, all right? You're poor acting, all right? How about we just be honest with, as individuals and as human beings, of where the end of a year actually puts us. The year ends. Some things will be resolved. Some things will not be resolved. People will feel different ways, experience different things. It's just a fact. It's just more of a reality than trying to frame it into some big thing. And many church services tonight will be like, and it's just so much of it is, again, it feels performative. And I think having faith Real faith doesn't pretend. Real faith doesn't want the performance. Real faith handles the reality and can face the reality and acknowledge the reality. A faith that has to pretend, a faith that has to have church service performance is not faith. That's insanity. Faith sees reality. Faith does not deny reality, but faith sees reality, acknowledges reality, does not try to change reality, deny reality, or pretend, but faith can then see beyond said reality to things that are true from a theological standpoint. And in some ways, I don't know, do we say midnight is an illusion? That's something you could write in your journal. Midnight is a powerful illusion. I think in some ways it is an illusion. We act that when that clock strikes midnight, something significant, something dramatic, it's just going to be, we go from Wednesday to Thursday. Oh yeah, you have to change that 20, that 5 to a 6. But what does it mean? What does it signify? I think we sometimes act like when the clock turns, when the calendar changes, something dramatic has happened, something spiritual has happened. Like somehow January 1 carries some authority that the rest of the year didn't, and it doesn't. It's just another day. Calendars don't save, calendars don't condemn. Dates don't sanctify, and New Year's don't fix anything. They don't. You are you on December the 31st, you're going to be that same person January the 1, no matter if you make all kinds of resolutions and you're going to do this. Now, for some people, it is a good way to maybe kickstart something, but I don't know. I think the reality is, at some point, you're just going to realize you're still you. You're still the same you with the same problems, same difficulties, same struggles. And from a theological standpoint, guess what you are on January the 1st? You are the same sinner you were on December the 31st. Guess what? You're going to be the same sinner in 2026 that you were in 2025. Because guess what? That old nature is not going away until glorification. So every year you're going to wake up the same sinner that you were. Maybe it's that illusion that makes resolutions feel hopeful in December, but I don't know. What do they feel like by February? I think they turn into law from a theological standpoint. They're like, do better, try harder. You're going to be different this time. And then they simply collapse, and then you blame yourself. Now, I don't think the problem is that we want to put forth effort to do something, but it's the expectation that we assign to it. And I don't like that approach at all. It's good to say, oh, I may try this, I may try that, but you got to be careful because it just turns into law, turns into these expectations. It shouldn't be no expectation. It shouldn't mean like, why is it that we wait till December the 31st to come up with all the things we're going to do? We could have started doing those things on December the 2nd, December the 4th, December the 5th, December the 6th, June, July. Why? But some weird thing. Oh, and you know what's going to happen starting January the 1st, January the 2nd. You go. It'll be, gyms will be packed. Gyms will be packed. People will be running on tracks. Martial arts schools. There'll be all kinds of new people joining. Most of those people are gone by February, March. Because there's some expectation. Why? You could have done it in beginning of December. But there's some like, why wait till then? Just do. If you're going to do something, just do it. And don't put expectation on it. Just say, I'm going to try it and we'll see what happens. I think also, and I guess I will say this, I'll say this tonight, because there will be some people tonight that are going to be alone. And I think New Year's Eve, and I do this every holiday because I'm always aware of people who are alone. New Year's Eve, Christmas, all kinds of holidays has a way of amplifying loneliness. So if you're alone tonight, I know the world's going to tell you that something is missing, that you've been left behind, that, that maybe you should feel more connected, more joyful, more celebratory. But I don't know. Maybe being alone does signify that you failed. I don't know. But you know what? I don't know. I don't know what it signifies. It's just, you know what? Instead of making it signify anything, it just means you're alone. So why make it signify anything? Maybe you're alone because you did fail, but what are you going to do? You know, you failed and that failure was fatal, most likely because there was no grace and mercy extended. If there was grace and mercy extended, then I don't think your failure would, I mean, there's a lot to process there. Maybe it does mean that you're forgotten. But if you're forgotten, I mean, what does it say about the people who forgot you and for the people who abandoned you because you failed? Does it say something about you or about them? I know this, being alone doesn't mean your life lacks meaning, right? Because meaning has to come from something, I think, transcendent, I think. I think all it means, if you're alone tonight, you're just alone on a Wednesday evening, and it doesn't need to be any more than that. You don't have to say, I'm alone on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is just some arbitrary thing that we've assigned to a particular day because it's the end of a month on a calendar that signifies the beginning of a new year. Whatever. I mean, it's just, that's arbitrary. It's just something we've assigned. I don't think it should have a greater impact. I know it's easier said than done. And I think the main thing is you don't need to perform. You don't need to be performative. You don't have to pretend. You don't need to manufacture joy. And you don't have to explain your stinking self. You don't. Those who are alone, you don't need to explain why. You don't need, it's nobody else's business. You're alone, and that's your issue. And who cares what anybody else thinks ultimately? It may signify something, but that's for you to deal with. I wish I could say, oh, things are going to be better. But if you're alone at the end of 2025, you're probably going to be alone at the beginning of 2026. And that's just sometimes where life puts a person. And there's not much you can do about that. But I think you just have to realize if you're having negative feelings about it, it's okay to have those negative feelings. Express those negative feelings. Don't let the people. This is the one thing I say to people who find themselves alone on the holidays or alone in life. For whatever has happened, you're alone. You don't have don't let the people who have offer you any advice. Don't listen to them. Those who have drive me crazy because, especially in Christianity, it's those who have who will tell you, you just need Jesus. All you need is Jesus. And you're like, well, then why do you have? Why do you have that? And no, don't talk to me. No. Because if all we need was Jesus, then those people who have wouldn't have, and they would be in the same boat you are, and then you could all sit alone having Jesus. But nobody, no. Everyone who doesn't have is seeking to have. That hand to hold, that person to be with, that person to be intimate with, they're looking for all of that. Even though we all try to see Jesus, that's where the church, I think, makes so huge mistakes. And it's usually the people that have that tell the people who don't, you just need Jesus and you should have everything you want. Just stop. So as the end of 2025 fast approaches, I'm not going to promise anybody that 2026 is going to be better. I'm not going to promise it's going to be easier. I'm not going to promise it's going to provide any more clarity. I'm not going to predict any kind of revival, breakthrough, healing, growth, or momentum. But I know this and I think ultimately none of that, I think this because faith doesn't rest on forecast, right? Faith doesn't rest on whether things are going to get better or things are going to get worse. If any changes come to any of our circumstances or our situations, it's not going to happen because the year changed. The year changing doesn't matter. And if nothing changes, it does not mean that God failed or faith collapsed. The gospel itself does not depend on optimism. No matter how optimistic I am or how cynical I am, the gospel still stands. The gospel doesn't need momentum. And the gospel doesn't expire at midnight. The year is going to end whether we want it to or not, whether we're ready for it to not, whether we hate it, whether we like it, whether we love it. Doesn't matter. The year's just going to end because time marches towards midnight, and then midnight will go to 1 a.m. and then just the way it works. Questions may still remain at the end. Pain may persist. Pain may even get worse. The disease may get worse. The situation may get worse. The loneliness may get worse. The despair may get worse. The depression may get worse. But faith is not dependent upon feelings. Faith is not a feeling. Faith is holding to that which is transcendent to our feelings, which is objective and it stands. It doesn't move. It's immutable, if we want to use that term. What we're putting our faith in, I should say, not our faith, but what we put our faith in. And faith is never about what you feel. And faith is never measured by progress charts or calendar turns. It's not. The year will end, but God will not. And maybe sometimes the most faithful thing we can do is tell the truth about where we are, what we feel, what's happening, and not pretending. Because pretending and performing is useless and a waste of time. So I end my words right there. I don't know what else to say. I don't know. There's a lot of, I'm conflicted. I don't know. There's a lot. But as 2025 does come to an end, I'm going to just do something pretty simple here, right? I'm not going to make, again, as I've already said, I'm not going to make any predictions or any resolutions. And I don't want to force scripture to say something that it hasn't, but I've given you my words. I'm just going to try to let God's words speak in context as much as possible as we wrap up this year. Not because the Bible's about calendars, because it's not. Not because, but because we are creatures bound by time. That's a fact. And scripture speaks honestly, so it's always good to see what God's word has to say. So I'm just going to give some scriptures and just let God's word, I've given you my final words, let God's word end 2025 for us, all right? And I know, maybe I'll turn the microphone on again before it's midnight. I don't know if I will. I don't know. I'm very conflicted on what to do. Maybe we'll do something before it's midnight. I don't know. I'm going to struggle between now and then knowing what to do. But I will start with this. God stands, and I don't want this to be so much my words. I want it to be scripture, but I will be placing these and giving these some kind of headings and saying a few things about it. But I think it's always good to know as we reach the end of the year that God stands outside the year. God stands outside of 2025, outside of 2026. He's transcendent to that. Now, I'm going to use a scripture that I get very upset that people take out of context. I'm going to go to Isaiah 46. You know, we were supposed to finish Isaiah 40 through 55 by the end of 2025, and that's another one of my failures. What I'm going to do tonight is just make a list of all of my failures for 2025. The list will be long. The list will be so long. It will be insane because I have failed in every way possible. But Isaiah 46, we read these words, verses 9 through 10. Isaiah 46, 9 through 10. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Now, this is very much a And these verses show up where God is speaking to those in Babylonian captivity, and those in Babylonian captivity could be very tempted to look to the Babylonian religious system, their system of idolatry. And they know that, in a sense, the gods of Babylon has defeated Israel, defeated Jerusalem, took Judah into captivity. The gods of Babylon seem to be greater, more powerful, so they could be very drawn to the idolatry there. And God is giving these words of comfort from Isaiah 40 through 55 to Judah, those in Babylonian captivity, going to be delivering them through the hands of Cyrus. But when they come out, he doesn't want them to bring the idolatry of Babylon with them back to Jerusalem. So there's many cases in this section where he tries to, he contrasts, no, I am truly God. I am greater than these idols. I am great. Even though it may not look like it, I am greater than these idols. So he's speaking to those in captivity, right? And Isaiah 46:10, God declares the end from the beginning. He declares the end from the beginning. It's not so much about time. It's because it's more about God ruling over the end and the beginning. He is the author. He is the finisher. He's the one in charge. And remember, these are words spoken to people who are displaced. They're in captivity. They're uncertain. They're waiting, hoping. Maybe they've already given up hope for redemption. See, when we get to the end of the year, what we need to remember, that our comfort, our hope is not that the next year is going to improve. I think what we can take away, no matter what happened in 2025, no matter what's going to happen in 2026, maybe we just take from us that history is not random. Even when it feels unresolved, the year will end, and I've already stated this, God does not end. Again, Isaiah 46:9 through 10. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is none else. I am God, and there is none like me. No matter what happened in 2025, no matter what will happen in 2026, no matter what has happened in your life, what is happening in your life, or will happen in your life, God is God, and there is nothing like him. Now, this leads to philosophical struggle because, well, if God is God and there's nothing like him, I wish he could do some things to fix my 2025 or my 2026. But it goes on to say, declaring the end from the beginning. God declares the end from the beginning, not the idols of Babylon. God declares the end from the beginning. And from ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, I will do all my pleasure. God is beyond time. He is eternal, and he knows the beginning from the end, and he's going to do all of his good pleasure. Sometimes that's baffling, because if God is doing all of his good pleasure, then explain pain, suffering, death. I know that. But the bottom line is, God stands outside of the year. He's above it. He's beyond it. He's transcendent to it. And that's the only thing you can put your faith in, not in outcome, not what that God will do, may do, could do, should do. All you can put your faith in is in God, who is immutable, stands outside of time, and rules and controls it, even if it doesn't make any sense. So there's Isaiah 46:9 through 10. Now, as long as you meditate on those verses, putting them in its proper context, okay, just don't rip them out of context, okay? We could go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Now, I want to make it very clear. Ecclesiastes 3 does not give you any promise of improvement. It doesn't even explain why there's a time for this and a time for this. It doesn't explain why you're in this season and why this season. It doesn't explain it. It simply tells the truth that in life, you get a little of this, you get this, you get that, you get this, you get that, and there's a season for it all. It doesn't explain the why, the where, the how, the who. It doesn't explain it. It's just stating facts. There is a time for things. And guess what? There's a time for things. Most of the time, those things are not chosen by us. Many cases, they're never understood by us. They're never explained to us by God. In many cases, they're not very welcomed. But we have no choice. We have no control over that. In many cases, we don't. Now, sometimes maybe we do because of our failure. That's back to that whole failure, fatal, grace, mercy discussion I had with some of my last words. I think when you get to the end of 2025, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8, I think it just kind of gives us permission to say, the year changed. Some things didn't. Some things did. Some things got better. Some things got worse. I still don't have any stinking answers. That's not unbelief. That's realism. Another passage, Psalm chapter 90, verse 12. So teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Now, this is not about, I don't think this is about productivity. I think this is about humility. I don't think numbering our days is what makes us powerful or efficient. I think it just makes us honest. I hear some fireworks in the distance. Hey, the one thing I know is years pass quickly and life is fragile. And I think wisdom begins when I simply admit that years pass quickly and life is fragile. Don't know how many more. Don't know. Look, when I first stood in the pulpit at Victory Baptist Church, 25 years ago, I never thought, here I would be saying it's all over. It doesn't, you never feel like it's going to, you feel like some cases things are meant to last. And one thing that we always feel like is supposed to last is life. And that's why we're always shocked when it happens. When someone dies, we're always like, oh, like it's a shock. You're guaranteed you're going to die. You are guaranteed that the people you know are going to die. The people you love are going to die. It could be tonight. It could be tomorrow. Now, I know what some say, but Jesus could come back. Okay, I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying, unless he does, you're going to die. So you better just be prepared that death is coming and it's getting closer. And you know what? I always say, to me, the most important significance of the day changing and the year changing and the time, it just signifies I am that much closer to the end. Life ends just like a song ends. I'm that much closer to the end of the song. Now, if I'm playing a song on a streaming service, I can see the timestamp. Ooh, I got 35 seconds left in this song, 25 seconds, 10 seconds. Well, I don't know. I don't have that timer, but my time is clicking down. I think what we learn at the end of the year is that we don't control time. We don't. And I don't think Scripture ever pretends that we do. We don't. We have no control over it. I have no control over when my life is going to end, right? Especially if we believe God has appointed the time of our death. If we believe that, and I have zero chances. I may impact the quality of that life and how I take care of myself, or if I do something crazy like, jump out of this window behind me, 2 stories down to the ground below and break my leg, or maybe land on my head and end my life. I mean, I guess, but see, even would I end my life, I could just be in a coma. Who knows? We could get into that whole theological discussion. But either way, life is fragile. Very, very, very fragile. So Psalm chapter 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Here's another one. How about Lamentations? Lamentations. Now again, I'm trying to put all these in their proper context. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 and 23. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 and 23. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 and 23. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassion fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Now, when these words are given in Lamentations chapter 3, Jerusalem is still destroyed. All right? There's still pain and difficulty. It doesn't mean circumstances have been fixed. The circumstances have not changed. The suffering has not ended. This is about the destruction of Jerusalem by Babylon, right? But God's mercy has not failed. Now, sometimes that's hard to understand, how God's mercy has not failed, even though our circumstances are horrible, but God's mercies do not fail us. They're new every morning. Doesn't mean that the situation is going to get better. It just means God is going to remain faithful. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassion fails not. God's compassion does not fail. God's mercy does not fail. His grace does not fail. Doesn't mean our circumstances are going to always go the way we want them, but God, those things were not fail. So our failure will never be totally fatal, because there is mercy, there is compassion, there is grace, and there is forgiveness. How about Philippians chapter 3? How about Philippians chapter 3? Philippians chapter 3, verse 12. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may appear for that which I am apprehended of Christ Jesus. All right, so let me read that again. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after it, that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Christ. All right, I got some of those words wrong the first time, so let me read it one more time. Not as though I had already attained, either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend that for which also I am apprehended of Christ. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. Now, that's something good to write down. Not that I have already obtained this, if we want to write it that way. Not that I've already apprehended. I am not perfect. I have not reached perfection. See, this is Paul speaking, and there's no spiritual arrival here. There's no completion. There's no, I've been victorious or I've been triumphant. I think when we get to the end of the year, stop pretending that we've made it further than stop even trying to measure how far you have or haven't. Just acknowledge, I haven't made it. I'm not perfect. I haven't apprehended. I'm not there yet. How about 2 Corinthians? How about 2 Corinthians chapter 4? Verse 16, for which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and external weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. The outer part of our outer shell, it's wasting away. It's not a metaphor, that's a reality. We will get older, we will get weaker, we will have problems, we will have physical problems. That's just the reality of life. And so the renewal that Scripture is referring to is unseen in the sense it's internal. So I don't think you can measure it. I know we like to try to measure it, but we're being renewed maybe internally, but externally we don't always see it because, well, we're going to fail in many ways. So I don't think we interpret our year spiritually by looking to visible results. And then we have Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8. We know this one. Don't even need to look it up, right? Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The year will end, circumstances shift, people change, circumstances change, relationships stop. But he remains the same today, yesterday, today, and forever. Now, I don't think that's to make us to give us emotional comfort. It gives us doctrinal stability. I don't think it's there to provide me emotional comfort. It's just the only thing I know that doesn't change. The thing that's immutable is God, Christ. They remain the same. So as we end 2025, those are some of the words of God. Not trying to bend them to a calendar, not trying to make them sentimental, not trying to weaponize them for, hey, you better be optimistic. Time passes. That's a fact. We are finite. That's a fact. Suffering is real. No way to get around it. Faith is unfinished. God remains faithful. Is that enough to stand on? I don't know. Doesn't matter if it is or isn't. The year's coming to an end and there's nothing you or I can do about it. And you can try to make a big deal about what you're going to do tomorrow, but tomorrow's just another day in the calendar. So instead of giving you all that pressure and all that expectation, just wake up tomorrow and just live life like it's just any other day. I think that's the best for your mental health and your emotional stability and your emotional sanity. Yeah. Tomorrow will be different for me, right? I've already established how it's going to feel weird to wake up and knowing I'm entering the first year that I haven't been a pastor in 25 years. But reality is just another day. Yeah, I'm no longer a pastor, but you know what? It's just another day, another year. Just get up and live it. Whatever circumstances I'm dealing with, what are you going to do? Very little you can do. Now you can regret, you failed. Maybe that's why something is, but tomorrow doesn't change any of that. Tomorrow doesn't make it more powerful, it just is. I don't know. I wish I had something more profound to say. I know I've spent 60 minutes. I could have done 60 minutes doing what I needed to do. But then I wouldn't have finished that. Even if I would have done it, it would have just been one more. And it wouldn't have really been perfect for a Wednesday night, right? So I don't know. So I'll put that as another failure. What I'm going to do tonight, while I'm telling you to do all the right things, I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to write down every single failure that I had in 2025. I'm going to make a list. And I'm going to be like, you're a failure. And that's what happens. But I want to say theologically, failure is not fatal. Wherever grace and mercy is, failure is not fatal. But you know what? No matter how much I failed in 2025, no matter if you get thrown in the trash heap, you know what you can do? Climb out of the trash heap. Right? I don't know. I don't have any profound answers. 2025 is over in just a few hours. Enjoy the countdown. Enjoy the festivities. Enjoy family, food, friends. For those alone, don't worry about all that, all right? Let everybody do it. You find something you like to do. You find something that you find fun, and you enjoy yourself. You've got 3 people with you. You got you, yourself, or me, myself, and I. Right? I'm referring to myself, me, myself, and I, but you can say the same for you, me, myself, and I. Make it the most for those three, okay? All right. And again, it doesn't really, tomorrow I'll just turn on the microphone, and the only difference is I'm going to probably mess up and say it's 2025 instead of saying it's 2026. I'll try to remind myself not to mess up, but I mess up at the beginning of my episodes all the time, stumble over words. I'm still going to do that in 2026, right? Probably going to, subject verb agreement will be messed up. I'll use wrong tense. Who knows? I'll mispronounce things. I'll say the wrong year. I'll stumble over a word. I'll say clack instead of clock. I think that's one of the things I did in this episode. I'll mess up. There'll be dogs barking in the background. The internet will fail. There'll be all kinds of failures. There were failures in 2025. There'll be failures in 2026. I don't know. Is that the, I don't know. Did I give you a unified message? Not really, but I did give you some very important scriptures. So if you just want to write those scriptures down, something to meditate on. And I know I misread that one in Philippians so poorly. Makes me mad. Another mistake I made. I'll write that one down. Isaiah 46, 9 through 10. Don't forget the context there. Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8. Psalm chapter 90, verse 12, Lamentations 3, 22 through 23, Philippians 3, 12 through 14. Read it better than I did. 2 Corinthians 4, 16 through 18. I think I read that one okay. Hebrews 13, 8. I didn't read, but I mean, you know it. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. All right. Everyone have a great, happy New Year's. I don't know. Just, hey, it's just another day, right? I mean, celebrate it, enjoy it, have fun with it. Just don't make it more than it is, and maybe don't make it less than it is. It does signify one thing. You're closer than you've ever been to saying goodbye to this world, because that's the one thing that you know. I think you can say this: God is eternal. God is immutable. God is holy. God is love. God gives grace and mercy. God sent his son to die for you so that you can be forgiven for your failure. And in God's eyes, your failure is not fatal, but he saves you and then gives you the perfection that you never will have. Oh man, his way is so much better. And life, it doesn't work that way. Failure is typically fatal. But you are going to die. I guess that's the thing to take away, is we're all fast approaching it. So, I don't know. God bless.